Hey, good morning, Razzballers. It is Monday, May 19th. Happy Victoria Day, or May 2-4 to my Canadian friends, and happy soon to be long weekend to our American friends. It's Monday, so we got my man Gray on, as per the norm. So without further ado, here he is with a brand new camera. I didn't think you could look handsomer than you do, but man, seeing you in high definition, I mean, that's a treat, Gray.
Really handsome.
You know what? Actually, technically, we were supposed to have T Hole on this week, but he calls me. He goes, Nick, I got a broken nose. I can't come on the show. So you may this week actually become the most handsome man in the Razzball team.
Fingers crossed.
Are you trying to be a bit more reserved this week? Is that the plan?
I want for the first time I watched the video last week, and I think I move around too much. So I'm gonna try and stay a little more stationary.
you you do whatever you want to do, buddy. But what's with the pinch, man? I thought you were just all mustache.
Nick, that's a great question. I am all mustache. I built my body around the mustache.
I'm not sure what to do with you today. Do you want to get right into Razzball Radio? Do you want?
You
You
know,
want to
you know what the weirdest thing is?
tell me?
When when people now say I have, oh, your mustache, it's real sexy. And they hold on a real long time. It gets a little weird for me. I like them to cut off the sexy quick rather than holding on the sexy.
All right, good stuff. So just before we start talking some fantasy baseball, Gray, we are going to talk with Gray for the first segment, and then I've got a really cool segment coming up. It's something I shot over the weekend with Razzball reader Greg Vignovich. So check this out, Gray. This guy Greg, I should be careful, Greg and Gray. This
Ray or Greg?
Greg.
Wait, are you talking to Greg or Greg?
Well, right now I'm talking to Gray, but later we'll be talking to Greg. But listen to this. This guy has been in the same league since 1992, since junior high school in Iowa. And what they have, this is so cool. They have the old notebooks with all the stats, all the players in it. It's so cool to flip through this. We're gonna go a little old school, quick little segment after Gray today, and look through some of the old. What was it? I forget what the league's called, but basically somewhere out in the middle of nowhere in Iowa, where basically your options are fantasy baseball or Gray fill in the blank.
I like the camera makes me look handsome, but for some reason it freezes you. So I'm just looking at you like this.
That's how I feel today, actually, on this Monday morning.
This guy's notebook, does it also have like his high school crushes written on it, and like all these he has like all these different girls' names crossed off from through the years?
Totally, it's like a trapper keeper. It's awesome.
Is it a Pac-Man trapper keeper, or is it Q-Bird?
No, gem. I don't judge.
Gems, truly outrageous.
All right. Also, just so you know, because it appears that Gray might be slightly delayed, and that's factually correct. But with that said, we're working on a couple different options to get a better stream, so you don't see his handsome face followed by his dim-witted words.
Yeah, no, I'm actually in real life. I am uh, like that. That is how you seem. You're hearing the audio as if I am fine, but in reality, it's really like the video. That is true to life. How it just sort of every once in a while catches.
Looks like you got a good tan over the weekend, though.
Yeah, I was driving around the convertible. What?
Nice. All right, let's talk a little fantasy baseball. So I had a really good question from Mike this week. He wanted to know, all right, let's say that you're in the basement. What's a better strategy for trying to work your way out trade wise? Are you better to try and land premium talent, so kind of amassing 2 to 3 guys and trading them for one elite bat or pitcher, or is it the other way around where you should liquidate your best player and try and spread the wealth around? What's in your opinion the better strategy if you are in the basement?
Good Starbucks today. Sometimes you get a good one, and sometimes it's just a little bit off, even though the same person's making it. It's hard to say. Um, it depends on the situation. For different leagues, different things could work, and depends on the team. Depends on a lot of factors. Like for instance, say a 12-team league where guys are a little bit more readily available. A trade of two guys for one guy or three guys for one guy is probably a little bit better situation. So say you were doing, I don't know, Jay Bruce and Hayward and Annabelle for Adam Jones. In a 12-team or a 10-team league, that's probably a good trade for the guy who's getting Adam Jones because he's upgrading. He's getting the best player. He's upgrading his outfield, and if that's what he needs, obviously. And so then, if it's in a deeper league, say a 15-team league, and you have someone giving you, Adam Jones for Annabelle, Jay Bruce, and Hayward, it may not be as good a trade because who are you replacing Annabelle with? Say Jacob Turner. That's not a great trade for that team if Jacob Turner is now their number two or number one starter, or if say you had in that trade where Jay Bruce and Hayward are going to the other team, and it's a 12-team league, and you're able to pick up guys that are starters, then it's probably a good trade. It probably works out. But in another league where you're then going with someone who is maybe a fourth outfielder on the real team, it's not as great. So it depends on the situation, and it depends on the team and the two teams that are trading. I prefer always to get the best player in a trade. Like recently, I did the trade with T-Hole, which was Jay Bruce and Middlebrooks and K-Rod for Longoria and Kevin Guzman or Gaussman or whatever. But the Gaussman and Middlebrooks don't really matter. They're not really. It's a 12-team league, and I immediately dropped Gaussman, and I think Middlebrooks went to the DL, and T-Hole should drop him or put him on his DL slot, but I don't even know if he has room for him because now he has Jay Bruce too.
So basically, to summarize, what you're saying is you've got to factor in the guys that are going to become replacement players on your roster as well.
The replacement player value is really it's a big factor in it.
All right. Speaking of the RCL League, which is where you made that deal with T-Hole, who is in, I think, 11th place. I have been following Gray's advice.
He's in last place, isn't he?
Yeah, 11th place, 12th place, whatever. It's T-Hole. But I followed your advice, and I've been using a lot of those middle relievers. I took all the suggestions you made on how I was managing that team, and I've already moved all the way up to 5th place. So thanks, Gray.
Yeah, no problem.
How do we not have a vape sponsor on this show?
We should, actually. It would be a good idea to get a vape sponsor. I think, definitely. I think I probably should have. I should highlight a new team strategy for you every week, so we can talk about something other than middle relievers. You're really stuck on this thing about the middle reliever. Yes, it's definitely helped your team. I agree. You mentioned that the last 3 times we've talked.
No, but I'm more saying that it's actually proven effective. That's all the only point I was trying to make.
No, I knew it would prove effective too. That's why I told you to do it.
Okay. Hey, so I let off the hot sheet. By the way, if you haven't heard the Razzball hot sheet yesterday, it goes up every day by noon Eastern, and it's basically a 3 to 4 minute capsule of what you need to know for that day, streamers, what's in the news. And I let off today with Andrew Kashner. He's got a sore elbow to the DL. What's your concern level here? I mean, the way guys are going down.
It's it's not good. I have him in the RCL league actually, and I'll probably drop him if the news comes back bad. I think we're taping this at 10 a.m. Pacific. Probably sometime around early afternoon we're going to find out whether or not he is what kind of shape his elbow is in, because he's going for an MRI today. So We'll see. It'll depend on what happens with the MRI.
All right, good stuff. Um, excuse me. We touched on him briefly last week, but Drew Pomeranz, or Drew Pomegranate, as I like to call him, is he a viable mixed league starter at this point, or is he just still a stream option? I know I'm big on him. Love the curveball, love the ballpark, love the opportunity. You got to go to a 14 or 16 team league for him to be a viable, or is it possible that maybe he's worth starting in a 12 team league?
No, he's definitely startable in a 12-team league. He's right now. I think he's a 9K rate, 3 walk rate guy. So as I've mentioned before, when you have a +6 between the K and the walk rate, it's a guy who's viable in all leagues really. Like if a guy has a 7K rate and a 1 walk rate, it's a great guy. A guy who has an 8K rate and a 2 walk rate, it's a great guy. A guy who has a 10K rate and a 4 walk rate still works. So yeah, he's at 9.3 right now, and he's around a 3.5 ERA guy. I think right now his ERA is in the ones, which isn't sustainable by any stretch of the imagination, but that's fine. He's definitely viable. He's someone I would own in any league at this point, especially while he's pitching well.
Another guy who's pitching well, I don't have him on the list today, but Edwin Jackson is only 3% owned. He's strung together a couple really good starts, striking guys out. You starting Edwin Jackson? Is he rosterable in the 12 team?
Yeah, for the right matchups, he's below Pomerantz in my mind. Edwin Jackson, he is probably, I'd say he's like a number 5. He's a streamer in most leagues. If he has the right matchups, then sure. I'm not a huge Edwin Jackson fan. I think right now he's just below a 4 ERA, and I own him on a deeper league, but that's the kind of situation where the deeper you get, it's where the certain starters become more valuable. Like an Edwin Jackson in a very deep league he's great because he gives you innings, and you're getting a guy who was real cheap in the draft because no one really wants him. In shallower leagues like the 12-team mixed league, he's simply a streamer, not much more.
Okay. Speaking of a pitcher and whether or not they're rosterable or streamers, Trevor Bauer is starting Tuesday for the Tribe. What are your thoughts on Mr. Bauer?
Bauer he's a lot more like Pomerantz. He is he's a lot more like Pomerantz, and I think people are right now are giving him credit for it. I think people are expecting Bauer to come up and be a number 1 or an ace, which he's not by any stretch of the imagination. He's still, his walk rate's out of control still. Even in the minors, it's not great. I would say you're probably going to get a much bumpier ride than you're expecting from Bauer. He's probably going to give you, starts where it's like 9 Ks in 6 innings and 0 earned runs, and also he's going to give you starts where it's 4 earned runs and 4 earned runs in 3 innings and 100 pitches thrown.
Right.
He's not someone who's really he's not a safe bet by any stretch of the imagination. He's definitely someone I would own and I would gamble on for sure, but he's risky.
Hey, just going off the chart here a little bit as well. What did you? And this is not fantasy baseball. Well, it might be fantasy baseball relevant. The D-backs have been a disaster, and I thought of this because of Trevor Bauer. What did you think about Tony La Russa being named chief baseball officer in the desert? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. If I feel like Tony La Russa is real. He's someone who brings an angle that is very caring for pets. He's someone who occasionally will fall asleep at a stop sign when he's had a couple too many to drink. He's also a guy with gorgeous feathered hair, really, really lovely. I think his feathered hair is probably up there with any child star of the '80s. I would even say, maybe '70s child stars. His feathered hair is really incredible.
All right, good stuff.
A lot of bounce.
All right, speaking of a lot of bounce, Jose Abreu's rounded the base pass, bouncing around with all those homers he's hit this year. He's hurt going on the DL. There's not a lot of, obviously, first base, potential waiver wire grabs. Maybe Justin Smoke, maybe Mike Olt, who looks like a windmill right now. You like anybody to potentially replace Mr. Abreu on the short term?
Abreu, yeah. I'd say Miguel Cabrera. Is he available?
He is if you play daily fantasy at DraftKings.com.
Wow, that wasn't it. You were just like that. Yeah, that tells me it is just sitting on the side of your frontal lobe, just ready to spew out at any moment. Your DraftKings has sponsored your frontal lobe. That is what's going on.
They put a chip right in here. You can see the scar if you look closely.
Yeah. Oh man. I'd say it depends on the league, obviously. Like I was looking at in one league. Where I was looking for a first baseman. There was like a 12-team league. I saw Loney was available, and I think he's hitting like 340 in the last month. So he's someone that if you want average, he's a decent bet. Then there's someone like Mike Olt, who if you just want cheap power, maybe you get 3 or 4 homers in the 2 weeks that Abreu's out, but also, a terrible average. The deeper you get, it gets a little worse. I saw Kelly Johnson in one deeper league with first base eligibility who was available. He's not, obviously he's not great. That was a total Rudy phase right there. I don't know if you saw one. That's what Rudy does to those phases. And then there's obviously Dunn and Konerko, who are standing to get more time because Abreu's hurt. And they're not really great for most leagues, but if you just need like an AL-only fill-in where you have to get at-bats, just hoping to get maybe, a 230 average for the next 2 weeks with maybe some counting stats, then I'd probably go Konerko or Abreu.
Okay. What's going on with Jed Gyorko down in San Diego? Is there anything in his numbers that suggests a potential turnaround? Because you keep telling the commentators, who keep asking, do I drop Gyorko? Do I keep Gyorko to hold on to him? So is there something there that you're seeing?
Who is the Gyorko? I think there's really there's going to be a revolt at some point, and Razzball is going to be taken over by Jack Full of Hate and Jeff with one F.
Jeff with one F does kind of feel like the guy who's there before you are in the morning, just making sure everything's neat and tidy.
Yeah, malicious phenom and Jeff with one F. I was going to say Jeff Full of F.
Hey, actually, I got something. One of the commentators emailed me this week, Costa Rican Chata. He's on the boards quite a bit. And he told me, I have to ask you this, and I'm not allowed to edit it. So I don't know if this is going to be funny or not, because I really am throwing this at you. But what's your anniversary date?
For what?
For your wedding to Cougs.
Oh, right, the wedding. November 2nd.
There you go, Costa Rican Chata. I don't know if that worked for you or not, but hey, don't tell me I'm not doing things for you, Razzballers.
Yeah. Okay, so on Gyorko, right now his balls batted into play is 170 something. So in the last 14 years, there's never been a hitter with that low of a balls batted into play, and there's only been one guy in the last 14 years who has had a balls batted into play below 200. So essentially that means Gyorko has been more unlucky than every other hitter for the last 14 years with balls bat into play. Now, that doesn't account for guys who hit that low and then were demoted to the minors. So Gyorko will either the ball will either start bouncing off his bat and he'll bounce his average up, you know, 50, 75 points, or he will get demoted. It depends on how long the Padres let his leash out for. I think there's probably a good chance that he does come around, and when he does, you want him on your team. I think, right now Steamer has his rest of the season projections at him hitting 250. So that's 100 points above where he's hitting right now. So we're talking about a guy who is going to hit, maybe 320 for a month or two at some point. So, and he has great power, and he's a middle infielder. I mean, really, what else are you putting there? Are you putting Ibar or Wong?
Right.
I mean, it's like a matter of, your options aren't. It's not like he's playing first, and it's like between him and Morneau or someone. It's you're dealing with a bunch of. He's like the cream of the crap right now, and he's been mostly crap. I think he does come around now, and I try and tell every single person who asks about him to hold. Even though there's a few that's like, I think there's a couple out there that are like, oh, this is a 9-team league, and Gyorko or I don't know, Howie Kendrick or something. It's like, okay, well, in a 9-team league, you can drop Gyorko and still pick him back up if he's going to be hitting
Right.
at some point. In a deeper league, even a 12-team league, I would hold on to him and just try and ride it out.
Okay, so now obviously that people understand what their team, what kind of roster they have, we're almost a third of the way through the season. What's your biggest pet peeve when it comes to trade negotiations? Because now people obviously are more willing to trade, trying to fill the holes.
I'm glad you asked this, Nick. Great question. My biggest pet peeve is people who have pet peeves. I'm completely serious. I don't understand why someone would get annoyed if someone else is trying to trade. I mean, if you're trying to trade with someone and they offer you something ridiculous, then just don't take the trade. Are you really that annoyed by people that you can't just turn down or ignore a trade? I mean, I don't understand. Like, is this the kind of person who like gets road rage if someone sits at a red light for 5 seconds longer than they're supposed to? Just chill out. What's with the pet peeves? I don't understand.
All right, we need a glossary term for this, I think.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, it's something like, pet, leave me alone. I don't know. It needs work.
All right, we'll work on it. In your Friday buy sell call, because you didn't do the roundup Friday morning, people were panicking. Jay Rung did a great job filling in for you, but there was panic. Panic was setting in. But you did the buy sell column, and you mentioned Choo as a sell. What kind of return would you be shooting for if you were going to move Mr. Sin Shu Shu? Shu Shu. Shu.
Choo.
Choo.
God bless you. Well, I mentioned in the actual column that something like Brantley and a reliever would be surprisingly in your favor. Like right now, Brantley is on our player rater. Brantley's above Choo, so he's had more value than Choo. I think in most people's minds, Choo is above Brantley. So if you were to get Brantley and something else, then you end up winning that trade, surprisingly. Now it depends on. See, that's the thing with with negotiations on trades. It's hard to say what someone else values and what they think of people.
Right.
So if they feel like if they think they have they want Choo and they're willing to give, say, Alex Rios, I don't know. I'm just throwing names out here. Maybe Prince Fielder. Like if they're willing to give you something much better than Choo, or then you take it, obviously. But if someone really likes Choo, but they're if someone really likes Choo and they have Brantley, and you're like, well, I'll just take Brantley and say K-Rod, and I'm winning that trade in a landslide, but they think they're getting the better guy, so you give them Choo. So it depends really on what other people think of players. Like, for instance, the T-Hole trade that I took, where it was essentially Bruce and K-Rod for Longoria. So I really needed a third baseman, and T-Hole offered that trade to me. I didn't even negotiate with it. I got that offer, and
Right.
I need Longoria much more than I need Bruce. And in a 12-team league, I can fill in outfield, I can fill in Bruce, and to me, K-Rod is Sagnoff, and I can just pick up another closer. So K-Rod is essentially just a tag on for me. I don't really care about closers. So I was pretty much trading Bruce for Longoria, and in the big, and say in March 20th, right after the draft, you would have done Bruce for you would have taken Longoria in a second, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so at this point, Bruce is on the DL, and K-Rod is the closer. So you still not aren't you still taking Longoria there? I know I'm asking. You're taking Longoria, right?
Yeah, I'm not a big Longoria guy, but yeah, of course I would.
Yeah. So that's how. And I had that trade offered to me. So I took it in a second for sure. Now, previous to that, like I offered him Tehran for I think it was Longoria. I think I offered him Tehran and a closer and Bonifacio for Longoria or something. So he wanted Bruce over Tehran, and his pitching's in the toilet. So I was like, I don't know. I would, if I was him, I would have took him probably Tehran and the closer. But he wanted Bruce, so it was like whatever.
Hey, let me throw one last question at you before we wrap up. In the comments today, and this I thought was interesting, someone was asking, should I trade Matt Holliday for Michael Brantley? And look, Holliday is established that hitters hit. But I thought that you might actually take Brantley in that scenario.
Yeah. I mean, I could see the scenario where you take Brantley. I just think in a vacuum. I mean, I think that was all that was asked in that question. So in a vacuum, I'm taking Holliday simply because he has, he has more history,
Right.
and he has, he's a five, he's a 20 homer, 310 average, good counting stats guy, and he has a better name value. So I would say Holliday in a vacuum simply because you can get more if you turn around and say you have Holliday and you need something else, where Brantley's not going to get you much, and you could probably get Brantley for much cheaper than Holliday because people don't respect Brantley as much.
Okay, fair enough. Listen, Greg, stick around for a second. I want to talk to you after the break, but Razzballers will be right back with Greg, who again you want to have a look through these old school fantasy baseball logs going on for like 23 years. It's fantastic. We'll be right back. Hey, what's going on, Razzball? We got a really cool segment for you right now. We're going to kind of go old school fantasy baseball way back to when my man here, Greg, was in junior high school in Iowa. So, Greg Vignovich, welcome to Razzball Radio. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Good. So, this is a great story. So, Greg and I met on the pre-tour tour when we were coming through Phoenix, and we just started chatting. And one of the things that absolutely blew my mind is that, Greg, you've been in the same fantasy baseball league for how long?
This is the 23rd year.
23 years in the same Roto League. Now, this was with your old high school buddies in Iowa?
Yeah, we played Little League baseball together, and I was in junior high, and a couple of guys were freshmen in high school when we started.
That's crazy. So take me through, how did that get started? I mean, whose idea was it 23 years ago to start playing Roto?
It was my buddy Kevin from Colorado who incidentally turned me on to Razzball.
Hey,
He
right on, Kev.
He read the book, about the rotisserie book.
Yep.
And just kind of told us he thought it was cool and wanted to start a league, so we had a draft, and not knowing anything what was going on, just drafted a bunch of players and had a league.
Now this is awesome. So what town in Iowa are you guys from?
Madrid, it's a small town in central Iowa, so it's the Madrid Fantasy Baseball League.
Okay, so this is the MFBL, going old school. And what was really cool about this, and the reason I wanted to have Greg in on this, was they've got all the old files here from their drafts, from their accumulating the stats, because you guys used to go through and literally do your stats weekly in USA Today. I mean, we're talking like OGs of fantasy baseball here.
Yeah, American League on Tuesday, National League on Wednesday. And then, you had to figure all your own stats. And then Kevin was commissioner. He would do the league stats like once a month and like tell you them because he couldn't email them.
This is cool. The MFBL is older than 5 major league teams: the Rockies, the Marlins, D-backs, Rays, and Nationals, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, wait a minute. They're not older than the Expos. Okay,
That's true.
Let's be fair. So what did you guys? And you guys played what, old school 4x4 roto?
Yep. No runs and no whip.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So here's some crazy stuff about this. One is that the dawn of the steroid era, and this is really cool because you guys actually went through. I mean, you guys are, man, I think Rudy's a stat geek, but so let's start in the early 90s here, and this is kind of really poignant to see how the PED era or steroid era evolved in baseball. So in 1992, 10 guys hit 30-plus homers, 2 guys hit 40-plus.
Yep.
Okay. 93, it went from 22 hit 30-plus or 5 hit 40-plus. Dropped down in 94. Look at this, 1996. Read that off for me.
43 people hit 30 or more home runs, and 17 hit 40 or more.
Okay, so in the 4-year gap between 92 and 96, it went from 10 hitting 30 to 43 hitting 30,
It's crazy.
and 2 hitting 40 to 17 hitting 40. Man,
And it's not on there too, but there was a similar rise in strikeouts. You started getting
Interesting.
crazy strikeout numbers because
interesting.
the home run guys struck out a lot.
So another thing I kind of went through was looking at some of the old stats, because you don't think about this, but I mean, I'm 37. I grew up, in the early 80s, starting to get into fantasy baseball, so I recognize a lot of these guys. I mean, you were playing when Lou Whitaker was still in baseball, when Dante Bichette was a Brewer.
Yeah.
So here's a couple cool stats. Read me off these 2 stats right here.
Well, in 1992, Dennis Eckersley was in the league, and he had 51 saves in 1992, kind of towards the end of his career. And in 1990, I'm a Mets fan, so
Sorry to hear that.
David Cohn was still pitching, and he had 261 strikeouts in 1992, which was crazy. Only him and Randy Johnson were anywhere near that level.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I'm looking at some of these. Remember what Brady Anderson hit 50 homers? So
Actually, we were talking about Brady Anderson this morning.
Oh, yeah?
He actually had 2 good seasons because in 92, he hit 21 homers and had 50 steals.
Unbelievable. Okay, so I have the actual old statistics here. So these guys are still in the same league?
Yeah, everybody except for our high school football coach is no longer in it.
Okay.
And we're up to...
Because he's probably like 87 by now.
Yeah. He's retired and still back in Iowa. But there's up to 12 teams now. There was 8 original teams. So we're still mostly based out of Iowa, but a couple of us are in Chicago and 1 in Detroit.
Right. Now, what you guys did was, it was a no-trade league. So you drafted your roster, and that was it for the season, correct?
Yeah, he drafted 2 at every position, and then that was it. There was no daily. It was true roto. So whenever you traded for a guy, whenever you put a guy in your lineup, at the end of the year, you got his entire stats from the year. And you could manipulate them. And then we had 1 redraft at the All-Star break for all the people that weren't drafted in the first one.
Right.
So then that was it.
That's crazy. And did you guys get together for this? I mean, I guess you
Yeah,
had
so
to
my
back
house,
then, right?
at my parents' house, yeah.
Nice. So this is interesting. Jeter's still playing. His whole career has existed during the MFBL. That's nuts too.
Yeah, I think he came in the league like 94 or 95. And he's still owned this year, so he's been owned every year of his career. I don't know why he's owned this year, but he is.
And there's something else really interesting here that I noticed. One of your guys. So, did you guys have team names back in '93?
Yeah, we the first year we did not, and then in '93, Kevin, the founder, named his team the 86ers.
Okay.
So me and him were the only two Mets fans in Iowa, and he's never changed his name. So for 22 of the 23 seasons, he's been the 86ers.
Holy cow.
And I hate to say this because he's going to watch this. He won almost all of them back then, and he's won 2 in the modern era too. So he's by far has the most flags.
You know what's amazing about this? There's a modern era in this baseball league, which is absolutely crazy. So listen, I don't know if we can rip through some of these real quick,
Yeah,
but do you have
fire
some
away.
like interesting stats in here? I mean, just because there's so much documentation. I mean, we should open up like
Well, it's funny. It's like the random guys that would be all-stars today.
yeah, exactly. And this I think goes to as well the statistics from how it's changed over the eras. All right, so who do we got here?
Ray Langford, you wouldn't really think of as a absolute stud, but he hit 20 home runs, stole 42 bases, and had 86 RBIs while batting around 300.
I don't even remember Ray Langford.
Yeah.
Wasn't he a Cardinal?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, that's how far
It
back
was,
we
and
go.
it's just you have crazy stats that
Okay, give me a year here. Let me pull out a year.
these are all 92.
Okay, give me 92. So this will kind of go
That's
way
the
back.
inaugural year.
Okay.
I was one of the first people probably to ever punt saves too.
You did.
I
You
punted saves my
punted
first year.
saves. That's amazing. Okay, so here's just one of the random teams. Mickey Tettleton. I mean, Mickey Tettleton back in 1992 had 32 bombs, which is absolutely crazy. Great season for Dave Winfield, had 26 homers, 108 RBIs. Ron Gant went 17-32.
Ron Gant and Reggie Saunders for a 4-year period.
Yep.
Unbelievable. 25 home runs, 35 steals for 3 years in a row, both of those guys.
Okay, I'm still in 92 here. 1992, Barry Bonds went 34-39 for the Pirates, which is crazy.
Some of the younger players might forget that Bonds and Sosa used to steal bases too.
Yep.
They were both 30-30 every year, put it in the books.
Yeah, absolutely. Some interesting, like just seeing some of the names on these teams. I mean, this takes me back. I feel like I'm looking at baseball cards. Oh, wow. Someone had Dickie Thon. Holy cow. Dickie Thon was. Okay, sorry. I had a technical glitch there.
I think we were on how old Dickie Thon was.
Okay, yeah. Dickie Thon was in the league, which is absolutely crazy. Travis Fryman, Todd Zeal. Okay, hold on.
So we didn't have keepers, but like we would have like our players we would have every year.
Yep.
And like I had Eddie Murray 2 or 3 years in a row. I remember being young, thinking it was so awesome that he hit a home run from each side of the plate.
Yep.
So he like became one of my favorite players.
Okay, hold on. Here's an old school one for me. Marquise Grissom,
That was for you.
78 steals. Holy, I don't even remember Marquise Grissom having 78 steals. Brady Anderson, there you go, 21-53. What else we got? Dante Bichette as a rookie.
Yeah,
Someone had him in
that's
order.
the Brewers year.
Yeah, the Brewers year. Lou Whitaker. Oh. Kevin Deere. Is it Kevin Deere?
Rob Deere.
Rob Deere.
Rob Deere.
Rob, man, that guy struck out I mean, he was a human windmill. George Brett. Oh, is that Roger McDowell with 20 home runs?
That is.
Albert Bell.
Well, we looked it up this morning. We thought maybe that might be Joey Bell,
Well,
but it was only his rookie year. So
no, he's Albert.
close.
He's Albert. Joey, I think, was more of a
I think
nickname.
another one too. 5 or 6 people won 20 games or more in '92.
Yeah, I noticed that. You had Glavin. You had Cohn with the 261 Ks.
And you fly through it like 17 is like the norm. 16, 17
Yeah,
wins.
Maddox, Morris, Brown, all on that one team for whose team is this? Brett's team.
Yeah.
Brett had a pretty good team. Hey, he had Marquise Grissom and Delino DeShields, my kind of guy. So I think it's just kind of cool because the fact that this is really how fantasy baseball, really kind of germinated and grew to what it is today is guys just kind of going through the stats like old school, and this is actually really cool. So, okay, well, hold on. Here's 93. We have stats in here too.
They're all
Okay, let me just look for some quick ones here. Oh, here you go. So this is 93. Frank Thomas, 41 bombs, 128 RBIs.
It was the start of Ron Gant's assault on fantasy.
Yeah, Ron Gant had those big years. All right, let me just cruise through this real quick. I'm fascinated with this. I find this so absolutely interesting. Jose Rio, 227. Someone started Tom Candiotti. Wow, that's the first time.
Keep in mind, these are final rosters too. So this is the best available lineup you could turn in.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, let me find a couple more real quick here. few
And also,
more
it was
of
only
interest.
8 teams, but we played 2 at every position, so it ended up being a pretty deep league.
Right.
As far as
Jay Buhner. Here you go. Ken Griffey, 45 and 17.
Yeah.
You gotta love that. 43 steals for DeShields. My gosh. And then, here, is this your team again?
No, that's my
Oh, that's-
football coach's team.
So he punted saves as well. Did he? Oh, no, sorry. He had Rob Beck and Dwayne Ward. This is absolutely fascinating. Is that Matt Williams with 38 dongs?
Yep.
Holy cow.
It was funny. He actually taught a class at the high school too, and it basically became Matter Fantasy Football League class. It was awesome.
So, listen, I really appreciate, Greg, that
No,
you
it
came
was-
out today.
it was fun.
This, to me, is absolutely so cool, kind of going back through the old stuff. I feel like I'm at, like, the Smithsonian of fantasy baseball here. This is really cool. I just love that this is all. I love that you guys kept this. I mean, how did that happen? Is that just kind of like baseball cards? You don't want to throw them out just in case, who knows?
I think it was kept from when he moved. He didn't know he moved them, and then he moved again and found them. And,
Oh, wow.
I was actually, he lives in Denver now, and I was out there and we went through them one night when we got home from going out, and it was just a lot of laughs. And
Absolutely. Okay.
so I just made him promise to never get rid of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. And now you got a second copy. One more here. I remember this year. Chris Hoyles, this is 92. That was the year he had 20 homers and 40 RBIs. How does that happen? I mean, that seems statistically impossible to that. Cecil Fielder was on. Okay, so this guy's team, Tettleton, Hoyles, Cecil Fielder, Mark McGuire, Chuck Knoblaw, Duncan, I don't know who that is, Smith at short, Ozzie
It's
Smith.
Sean Duncan probably from is that a Cub?
Lee, Sheffield, Ventura, Winfield, Carter, Devereaux. Who the hell's Devereaux?
I don't know.
Jose Canseco, Jay Buhner, Ron Gant, Roger Clemens, Tom Glavine, Mike Mussina. I think that's
Charlie Lee Brandt.
Charlie
Charlie
Lee Brandt. This is amazing. This is absolutely awesome. All right, Greg, look, I really appreciate you coming out and sharing this with us. For me, this is a lot of fun. I hope you guys have just a little appreciation for kind of going back old school. If you're my age, this really is kind of like getting into a time machine.
Yeah.
And not the kind where, Gray slips you a roofie and then you wake up in another, area code or something. This was really kind of an old school baseball. Greg, man.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, brother. Hey, mad respects to the Madrid Fantasy Baseball League. It's Madrid, right?
Yep.
Iowa. Hawkeyes or Cyclones?
We're a split group. I'm a Cyclone, but they're not as good as the Hawkeyes, I have to officially say. So.
All right. Again, appreciate it, Greg. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks.